Hi, this is Steve. Welcome back to Scale Model Kit Review. In this video, I continue to build the Agora Models, the Terminator T-800 in half scale. Now I am on pack number 6, stages 51 through 60. Now if you haven't done so already, head over to Agora Models today and subscribe to this build today. Agora has a promise, the Agora promise, which is once you you will get all the parts. They will not stop your subscription midstream. They guarantee it. So with that, let's get started.
Phased plasma rifle in a 40-watt range. Uzi 9mm. I'll be back.
And welcome back to pack 6 of Build the T-800, the Terminator in half scale. And open this up here and you'll see we have 10 stages that we need to build. I'll give you a close-up of that. Stages 51 through 60, and you can pause the video so you can read them all. And we'll go ahead and look at the magazine. I'll cover all the build instructions as we move along in this video. And the first article here is the Matrix and how this shares a lot of DNA in common with the Terminator. It's a great article there. And the next article is Real World Science, the Simulation Hypothesis and the Holographic Universe. Once again, getting into the Matrix along with the Terminator. So let's go ahead and get started. And here's the first 5 stages, stage 51 through 55. So 51 is right here. 52, 53, 54, and 55. 55 came in a brown box. And the next 5 stages, stage 56, 57, 58, 59, and 60. Let's get started. Let's quickly look at the build instructions for stage 51. So for stage 51, we're fitting details to the pelvis. And these are all the parts included with 51. Down here they say we need tweezers, the assembly guide, super glue, and a cocktail stick. Step 1, we start installing some of the parts to the pelvis. Same with step 2. And 3, 4, step 5, and step 6, step 7, and that completes the build. Let me get the parts and I'll be right back. And here's our parts for stage 51. Let me take these out, we'll get a closer look. And here's a close-up of those parts. First off, we have the pelvis plate, as they call it, and this is made of plastic. Very nice there. And the hip socket itself, and that's also made of plastic. And the muscle connection is also made of plastic, but notice that it does rotate. Okay, so I brought over our Terminator, and this is everything we've completed so far. You can see it is a beast. Very nice there. We're going to be working on this area. Step 1, they want us to install this plate. And on the plate here you can see there's 2 mounting holes, and they'll line up with the mounting holes right there on the Terminator. And it just will slide down in there. Until it's flush. Just a snap fit on that. We attach this hip socket, and this we're going to need to use some super glue on it. So I use my glue looper, and we're just going to super glue these channels right here on each side. Just a little bit. And then those channels will line up with the other channels right there. And that's how that looks there. And that's all we do for stage 51. Let's go to stage 52. Welcome back. Let's look at the build instructions for stage 52. So for stage 52, we assemble the muscle in fitting another pelvic plate. And here's all the parts that came with that stage. And you can see from step 1 and 2, we start building on some of the muscles here. Four steps there, 6 steps on those muscles. Then we install another pelvic plate. And another pelvic plate there. And that's all we do for stage 52. Here's the parts for stage 52. And these are some of the outer and inner muscles and pelvic plate. And here's a close-up of those parts. Here's the pelvic plate itself. And that's made of plastic. Outer muscle, which is the larger one here, and that's also made of plastic. Inner muscle, made of plastic, and the muscle cap itself, which is also plastic. In this stage, we'll assemble the muscle, and that's simply taking the inner and the outer and sliding that in together just like this. Once we have that together, then we have to take some super glue. And they want us to super glue this edge right here. So I'll put a couple dabs of super glue on here just to hold that in place. And then we're going to insert that over the inner and onto the upper and press fit that. And that's how that should look there. That still moves. Next, we're going to take our part from stage 51 and that's going to get glued in on the other side here. So same thing. We're going to put glue on this outer edge. It press fits, but I think the glue helps to hold it even better. And there we go. That's how that looks. Now I'll go ahead and put this aside, and we're going to put this plate on next. Alright, so I brought over our pelvic area, and we need to turn this over. We're going to be putting this plate in on the back side, and that's this right here. And this tab here, this tab, and this one will insert onto our structure, and just like that. And that completes stage 52. Let's go to stage 53. Welcome back. Let's look at the build instructions for stage 53. So for stage 53, we're fitting more parts to the torso and pelvis. Here's all our parts. And it looks like there's where we start fitting the muscle joint. Super glue another hip socket. Insert it on the other side. And that completes stage 53. And I apologize for the background noise. Air conditioning running non-stop pretty much. We are in the midst of a very hot summer in the Southwest USA. So let me take these parts out here for 53 and I'll be right back. And I am back. So the first thing I received here is the leg joint section, and that's this right here. Very nice color to that, and it's made of plastic. And of course the hip socket, just like we received before for the other side. Inner muscle. Once again, everything here is plastic, and then the muscle connection. And it does move, just like the other one. So we're going to take our inner muscle and we're just going to insert it into right above the hip here, and it goes in there like that. And there's nothing that holds it in place at this point. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and just tape it in place. And we're going to install the other hip socket cover. And here's the hip cover itself. Same thing, the super glue, the points here that glue down on each side. And line that up with our hip joint. There it is. And there we go. That completes stage 53. Let's go to stage 54. Welcome back. Let's look at the build instructions for stage 54. Stage 54, we assemble a muscle and attaching the side muscles themselves. Here's all the parts that came with this stage. And just as before, we're going to assemble this muscle. Same way, using some super glue to attach the end plates there. Continuing on with that on the other side. But this time we're going to actually mount it to the hip. And don't have to tape it down because we're actually going to attach it to the pelvis at this point, both sides. And that should complete this stage. Let me get the parts and I'll be right back. Here's the parts for stage 54. I'll take these out, we'll get a closer look. Here's a close-up of those parts. First thing we have here is the leg joint section. Everything here is plastic. Outer muscle, inner muscle, and the muscle cap itself, and the other inner muscle portion there. Let's get started. Okay, just as before, we're going to go ahead and install this just like that, and we're going to be putting our cap on. First we need to super glue it just like we did before. So just putting it on 4 points around the edge here. Don't need to use a whole lot. Slide that there and press it in place. Perfect. We'll get our part from 53 here. Same thing. Super glue the edge. In case you're wondering, this is my glue looper. I love using it to apply super glues or even PVC glue, any kind of glue. Works great for that. And you can find that on my Amazon store. I'll put a link in the description below. And it goes together just like that. Alright, so since we're going to go ahead and start attaching this to the hip, I can go ahead and take my tape off. And that's simply just going to go right there into that socket. Snaps in place. Show you on this side a little better. I think I was out of camera there. And this snaps in. And that's all we do for stage 54. That was fun. Pretty easy so far. I'm enjoying this a whole lot. Let's go to stage 55. Welcome back. Let's look at the build instructions for stage 55. Stage 55, we're going to fit the joint mechanism to the right thigh. And there's the joint mechanism right there. And it looks like we're going to install those two parts that we haven't used yet from 53 and 54. You go down on top of each other there. Looks like a press fit deal there. And then we're going to take some CA glue. CA glue the nuts to that part there. And get everything ready to go on that step. And we'll put that cover down, and then that's all we'll do with this stage. And here's what the parts look like for stage 55. It's in a brown box. I'll take that out. And here's our stage 55 part. It is made of plastic. So let me take it out of the bag and I'll be right back. And here's a close-up of that right thigh, that's what this is. It's beautiful. It is made of plastic. Very nice. We also received 5 M2 nuts. So for stage 55, we take our parts from 53 and 54, and you can see this is what this side looks like there. You want to make sure it's turned over, and same thing with this. And larger protrusion coming out. You also have kind of like the flat spot on there. It's simply just going to go down right on top, just like that. It's a press fit, and that's how that looks there. Next, I'll bring over the right thigh, and that's this right here. And what they're going to want us to do is super glue in the nuts into this section here. So I'm going to put some super glue in those points. And I'm going to drop the nut in there. And just take your finger and rub over them. You should be able to tell if they're flush or not, and they are there. I'll put a little more super glue around the edge. And I'll take some super glue accelerator. Now we'll take our cover here and put that right down on top. Just like that. That looks good. And that's all we do for stage 55. Looks great. Let's go to stage 56. And welcome back. Let's look at the build instructions for stage 56. And here's the instructions for stage 56, and here are the parts that we received. We're going to be assembling the right hip joint. And this time we will need a screwdriver. And we'll gather that arm that we assembled back in 55. Insert some components to it. Get our hip part, insert that onto the hip, put our screw in, put the cover on, Put on the hip dome. And put in some more screws. And here's the parts pack for stage 56. Give me a second, I'll take these out. And here's a close-up of those parts. We have the hip joint itself, and it is made of metal. It's very nice there. And the inner casing hip joint, that's plastic. The outer casing hip joint, that's also plastic. Dome cap for the hip joint, and that's made of metal. And the outer cap for the hip joint. 5 PM2 18mm screws and 2 PM3 8mm screws. Take our inner hip casing and we put this on our part that we received. This is our thigh assembly from stage 55, and we're going to insert that and make sure it lines up with the screw holes. Just like that. And I'm going to insert the hip joint into that. That's how that looks there. I'm going to insert this into our hip, and there's a couple of notches that match up with these notches here. And I'm definitely going to go ahead and put an 8mm screw into this. And until it's tight. That's good there. And we're going to go ahead and insert our cover into this. Same thing, it's got to miss the screw attachments. And you can see that there. Then we'll put our cover on, hip joint cap they call it. That's how that looks there. And we'll put our outer cap on next, and that lines up with our screw holes. 18mm screws. Make sure they're all tightened down. And that completes stage 56. Let's move to 57. Welcome back. Let's look at the build instructions for stage 57. For stage 57, we're finishing the right hip joint and assembling the leg part. Here are the parts that are included. Step 1 is just giving us a review of what our model looks like. Then we start assembling the parts on step 2. We'll need to use our Allen wrench. The following step there. And that will complete stage 57. I'll be right back with the parts. And here's stage 57 parts. Give me a second, I'll take these out. And here's a close-up. We received the hip plate, and this is made of plastic. The right leg part, and that's also made of plastic. Right leg part insert, also plastic. And 2 PM3 by 12 millimeter Allen screws. So the first thing we do is we install this plate here, and that inserts into our hip joint. Just like that. Then we take our screw, our 3 by 12 millimeter Allen screw, and we need our Allen wrench, and we put that in next. And make sure joint can move. And good. And we're going to insert this cap onto the leg part, and no screw is needed, they say. That's good there. And that's all we do for stage 57. Let's head over and do stage 58. Welcome back. Let's look at the build instructions for stage 58. Stage 58, we're fitting parts to the right thigh. Here's the parts we received. And we're going to attach that new part we received with the thigh. Once again, using a screwdriver to attach some of the parts. Let me get the parts out and we'll get a closer look. Here's the parts pack for stage 58. I'll take these out, we'll get a closer look. And here's a close-up of those parts. We received the right leg plate. And that's this right here. It is made of plastic. 2 3 by 16 millimeter screws and 4 2 by 4 millimeter screws. So first thing we do is we take this plate and we insert it into the right thigh, and that simply just goes down just like that. We're going to put 3 screws in on the other side, and those are the 2 by 4 millimeter PB screws. And one of them goes right here. And right there. And the last one right over here on the end. Be careful you don't over tighten these. Put our very long 3 by 16 screw into this. That's good there. And that's all we do for stage 58. Let's go to stage 59. And welcome back. Let's look at the build instructions for stage 59. So for stage 59, we will be assembling the muscle for the right thigh. Here's the parts included. And there's step 1. We have the center part. And we'll be using some super glue once again on this. Be attaching the central shaft part and a little tendon attachment there. Screw, PWB 2-5 screw. Never seen one of those yet. And gathering our part from stage 52. Still working on the right thigh area. We're going to attach that on the hip. And that will complete it. Let me get the parts and I'll be right back. And here's the parts for stage 59. Give me a second and I'll take these out. And here's a close-up of those parts. This is the right leg joint. and that's made of metal. Very nice there. The tendon for the right leg, and this is another part of that. Center part for the joint. 2x5mm screws. These are the PMW type screw, and PM's 2x16mm. And we're going to super glue this center part for the hip joint, and that's going to go straight down on that. We need to put some super glue on here first. I'll use my glue looper to apply the super glue, or CA glue. And goes down on there. And that's on there. Looks good. Now bring over one of the tendons, and on the very end here we need to put this rubber cap on. And larger side fits on that. PWB 2x5 screw goes into that. I bring this over from stage 52. And we're going to be looking at this part right here. And we're going to put in our hip joint, our muscle connector. Now, I want to do it like the illustration shows. You want to make sure that this part is flared out towards the outward part, just like that. Screw that in with a 3x16mm screw. And obviously there should be some play there. And that's all we do for stage 59. Let's head over and do the final stage, stage 60 for pack 6. Welcome back. Let's look at the parts for stage 60, which is the final stage for pack 6. For stage 60, we attach more muscles for the right leg. There's all the parts. And once again, I'll be using our super glue to attach these parts like we did in the last stage. And screwing in a few parts there. Attaching to the hip just like we did before. A little more involved here. Attaching the tendons. And that will complete pack 6. And here's the parts pack for stage 60. I'll take these out, we'll get a closer look. Here's a close-up of those parts. We received the right leg joint, and it is metal, just like the last one. The tendon for the right leg. Another part of the tendon. Center part for the joint. The nuts, M3 nuts. 2x16 screws. Those are PM. And 2x5mm screws, those are the PWBs. And lastly, the 3x12mm screws. Once again, we use super glue to attach this part here. And simply just matches the attachment points. And that's down all the way. Next we work on one of the tendons. Wider hole goes on the tendon itself, just like before. PWB screw 2x5 goes into that. That's good there. And next we put our nut into the recess here. Just going to throw a dab of super glue in there to hold it in. Right, so assembling the muscle assembly, make sure that your detent here on this bracket is facing outward that way on your hip. 3x12 screw goes into this. It's the one with all the threads. And tighten that down. That's good. And while we have this turned over, we're going to put our 62, the one that we put the nut in. We're going to insert that in here. Okay, that's how that looks. And the one below it, we're going to take our 52 and insert it, that tendon. Okay. Okay, so the 152 does not have the nut. And we're going to take the 62, we're going to insert that on our thigh here. There's a mount point that we can mount that to, the nut facing out. And 52 on the inward side. I'm going to feed that through our 52 first, all the way through to the 62. Okay. And we'll screw that in. That's good. That completes stage 60. That was a lot of fun assembling pack 6. I had a blast doing this. I forgot how much fun this is assembling this with using super glue and a combination of screws and such, and it just makes a welcome change from building the cars. Those are a lot of fun too, but this is a lot different. So if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe to my channel and hit the bell for all video upload notifications. And here's the T-800 as it looks after completing stage 6. And I'd like to say it really looks fantastic and really looks the part. It's just very impressive. I can't wait to do more to it. I would like to personally thank all my subscribers who have been following me all along during this build. It's been a real pleasure to build these for you and show you just a little bit of the insight on how this goes together, and I hope you enjoyed it very much so. And while you're at it, head over to agoramodels.com. I put a link in the description below, and subscribe to this build today. The Agora promise is once they send you parts, you'll get the complete set. They will not interrupt your subscription, and you'll get everything. I have everything, and never had any problems. I've had great customer service from them. So with that, happy modeling everybody, and take care.